But yeah, so yeah, catch us up. You were saying the other day that you hit a wall trying to improve in Smash or something like that?
Hold on.
Is the Agent of Force a Yu-Gi-Oh card?
Okay. Yeah, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's a temporary name, mostly just for fun. Okay, yeah. So like getting better is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like, what I did was I played Inkling for like a week. I played like 5 hours a day, and then like I analyzed after that. I did that for a week, and I did get better, but it was kind of weird because like the people that I normally beat, I kind of just beat them a lot worse. And then the people that I lose to, I still lost to, although maybe not as bad. So it kind of feels like you really didn't get that much better, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did, but it's just hard to tell, you know?
Yep.
And online, like Inkling is really hard to use online. Like, if you watch the good Inkling players, how they actually win, like half of their kills are just up throw up air, and that's just really hard to get online.
Hmm. Cool.
So when you're online, it's just struggle to do anything.
So yeah, you've been at this for years. We've all been trying to improve at Smash for many years. Some games doing much better than others. So now you're seem to be at a situation where, with the current resources that you have and the current approach you're taking, uh, not seeing the results that you want. Is that pretty accurate?
Um, Maybe depends.
Yeah. Well, I thought.
I have not been to another tournament since Odyssey.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would compare to that
How
now.
long ago was Odyssey?
It was like the third November 13th. Like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, November 13th, 2021. Okay, last fall. 35 entrants. That's
Mm,
not a bad number of entrants. 35.
yeah, it's all right. Shockwave is the big tournament though. You
How
know,
many do they get regularly?
I'm not sure. Let me check. They get some really good players. They get 50,
Okay.
but they have like better people show
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Yeah, so I thought I'd share with you a little bit of the insights and things that I learned kind of studying the same problem, right? Because, you know, improving at Smash is that elusive art that seems to be hard for a lot of people to do. And we had the Smash Dojo. We created a lot of tools. We created a lot of drills. We ran a lot of drills. And yeah, just trying to figure out how it all works, how it all fits together. Maybe if there's a formula for it, what you're missing and what you have.
Uh-huh.
I think that's all good to know. Um, I'm gonna share my screen to you. Let me know when you see.
Give me one moment. Watch stream. Okay. Yeah, I see it barely.
Yeah,
Let me see.
a couple of months ago, I think I
Let
did
me
this.
full screen it.
Yeah, you should full
Okay,
screen
I see it.
it. A couple of months ago, I found this fighting game called Footsies, and it's incredibly minimal. There's only like 4 moves, and everything's a mirror match, and there's no jumping, and it's all about getting to the core fundamentals of what a fighting game is and how it works. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I used it to sort of create a sort of step-by-step program to try to show and explain to people what fighting games are at their core and what that means to playing them well. So, people download the game, they played it, they took a survey, they were supposed to get good, like try to actually get good, and then they take another
Mm-hmm.
survey, uh, And then we come to these last two steps, which I think are the most important, where everything comes together. Um, in explaining how fighting games work and explaining what footsies is, I pretty much created this map here with all the strategic possibility states of the game, right? You only have so many moves, and if this black inner circle is where the moves start,
Mm-hmm.
then everything has some kind of follow up, and then maybe those have a follow up, and then maybe those have a follow up, and then maybe that has a
Mm-hmm.
follow up, right? So everybody understands
Good.
this concept of like back and forth counters, flow chart, however you want to describe it. But this is a particularly unique case because the entirety of what's meaningful in the game can be displayed and charted out right here in one diagram. Now, after making this, and every move in the game, like this knee move has a command like holding forward or backwards and hitting attack. You can cancel into a neutral special move by pressing the attack button on hit or block. Everything's got frame data, right? Every move has nuances or particulars, like here, that you can learn. And some moves are much more flexible and valuable than others, right? Here's the chart of all of it, all the moves.
Okay.
So even though the game is incredibly minimalist, right? What I found is it's like a perfect canvas for explaining what fighting games are and highlighting what people sort of gravitate towards when trying to improve at fighting games, and also explaining like what they're missing if they gravitate too hard towards one method and not the other. A lot of people, so like I made this chart, I played the game, I got with the community, I chatted with them about it, I started entering tournaments and doing better and better and just like, winning. And that was kind of like the point of the experiment, like how much of this stuff actually matters. And yeah, I boiled it down to like a handful of fundamental ways to try to get better at the game. And one of them involves sort of expanding your strategy space like this. I remember
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I remember you advising some other people. I think it was a guy in the old Smash dojo named L, and he was trying to get better. And you were like, "Oh, you should write down every move that you have, and then write down like how it beats every move or whatever that the opponent."
Oh, that was Tony.
It was Tony.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was Tony. And you were like, "You should map it out."
The
like you gotta-
Matrix.
Yep. Go ahead, explain it.
I think the situation was what can you do as a wolf
Mhm.
when Ness up airs your shield as
Mhm.
he's falling to the ground and he lands with it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so many things you can do, so you can actually write them all down.
Yep.
You can write down every option Wolf has and every option Ness has, and you can see who comes out ahead or who doesn't, or if it more or less evens out.
Correct. Yeah.
If all you want to do is look at the reward, then you only look at percentage. You don't look at like who's ahead on frame data or not.
Yeah.
And like I think it's useful for a person to look at whether or not a situation gives you frame data or not.
Mm-hmm.
But for like a computer, which is what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
it's not actually as useful. But
Yep.
actually, it is useful, but maybe not in the long run, I guess.
Yeah.
You only really want to look at percentage, and like everything will average out if it's the computer playing, and they'll realize, okay, I get frame data advantage on this, but the reward they get is so large.
Yep.
That's like on the percentage or whatever, because they can do some crazy stuff despite being at frame disadvantage that it's still their favor.
Yep.
That's not, yeah, but like for a person, I think it's useful to know frame data on it.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, so I think that's what was going on with the Matrix. I was trying to make one for neutral.
Yep.
I haven't gotten around to it though.
Yeah. Exactly what you explained. That's one very key aspect to playing any strategy game, I think, well. It's understanding the options and evaluating them, most likely based on some risk-reward type setup. But there's too much going on to keep it all in your head. And even with the game as simple looking as footsies, like this is what you need to have in your head, right, to understand everything. This is what I have in my head because I made it.
Hmm.
And when I've played other players, I could clearly see like, oh, they're not doing this whole section, so time to beat them. Or wow,
Yeah, it's great. It's how you're supposed to do it.
yeah, or like wow, they never did this kind of kick ever, so
Hmm.
don't even think
You can
about.
take advantage.
Yep, don't even have to worry about it. And that's
The game, whenever someone doesn't do an entire branch,
yeah,
the game becomes way simpler,
yep,
like
correct.
absurdly simple, to the point where it's like it's trivial to like actually beat them.
Yep. If you have the so like this whole thing is a triangle, and that was basically illustrating the whole rock paper scissors aspect of fighting games. And like you said, if you don't do a whole branch, you could basically trying to play rock paper scissors with just rock and paper. And if somebody
Yeah.
recognizes that, there's like when they're gonna tie at worst and win at best, right?
Hmm.
Which is absurdly, it's not a game, right? Just like you explained. Same thing with footsies here. Even though most of the strategy space is leaning in the attacking direction, which is good. You know, attacking games and fighting games need to have more complexity with attacking than with defending, and so on. Um, I've recognized when players have whole playstyles that just they ignore a whole thing, right? Or they think something is safe and it's not safe, and they get punished. And
Hmm.
definitely having that knowledge worked out ahead of time is really the only way to use it in battle because no one can
Yeah, I've said
calculate
that
this
many
stuff out.
times actually. Yeah, you need
Yep.
to have everything figured out
Yep.
before you play the game.
Yep. So
Although some really good players will figure it out as they play.
yeah,
That's pretty impressive. It's
it's
fun
it's
to watch
it's
that.
impressive. It's rare. It's also like yeah.
Same thing is true in like StarCraft, by the way.
Hmm.
You need to have everything, every like situation figured out before you play for the most part.
Yeah.
Although you really can't practice without playing, and you really can't figure it out without playing. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Without being able to
Like you don't
test
really
it
know it
or
until you see it in game.
yeah, like
So,
you can theory craft it, but there's
hmm.
always that second step of figuring out how the theory matches with actual expectations.
Hmm.
Like you said with
Like
yeah, go ahead.
like you finish. I'm sorry.
I was just like you said with frame data, if somebody just doesn't know like one thing's an advantage over the other, then they're not going to act as if they have an advantage, and knowing is half the battle. So like if a
Hmm.
person plays stupid against you every time you hit their shield, like do you know how minus you are? If they don't know, then they don't know, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was I saying? Okay, in StarCraft, it's like super obvious,
Hmm.
and if someone doesn't know how to deal with something, you just like instantly lose.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like the game doesn't even drag on or anything. You just auto
Yeah.
lose sometimes.
Yeah.
Unlike in a fighter where it, like
Hmm.
I guess the games are short, so maybe in a fighter it's still pretty much the same thing, I guess.
In a fighter, you
But it
play lots of rock paper scissors type moments.
right,
In a
right.
strategy
It
game,
does take some time for it to like converge, I guess,
yeah.
for you to realize what that you know.
Yeah, in a strategy game, you could fail basically like on one of these early branches, but then the results of it only show up when you're down here. In a strategy game, you you and your opponent could slowly be like hopping from one thing to the next, and eventually getting out to some fringe possibilities, like with chess when they go off the book. But yeah, fighting games, this stuff could happen in the blink of an eye. Brrr, all the way out and then back to neutral. Brrr, all the way over here, then back to neutral. It's
Yep.
insane. But yeah, you're right about that. That's why fighting games are an action game and a strategy game, right? There's that strategy
Yep.
element you just described, which is 100% true. But then there's also this weird, scrappy, actiony element that also keeps the gameplay sort of simple by returning back to the
Yep.
core interaction of block,
Loops
attack,
back.
grab.
Loops are very important.
Yep.
The fact that it loops.
So yeah, you know a lot. We've talked about Smash a long time. We obviously know you know so much about the game, all this data and what's going on. Um, I think it's helpful for some people to see an example of a strategy space to realize that even when people say they play entirely by feel, there's no substitute to having this in your head. Like some people may need to write it out first, or writing it out may benefit everyone, but it's not like the only way to do it. But you have to have the thinking thought. You have to have the thinking thought ahead of time. Um, and so that's one aspect. I think the other aspect is trickier for a lot of people to wrap their heads around But like you said, there's loops in a fighting game. There's patterns to it. A lot of it is like real time making and breaking expectations of your opponent. And I sum all that to in a way to describe it. I said like that's like having a conversation with your opponent. Um, Ultimately, you can't control what your opponent does, but you have influence over what they can and can't do. You have the most influence when you're actually delivering hit stun to them and beating them up. You have the least influence when you are getting beat up, and then you have a medium amount of influence when you're both in neutral. So learning how to influence your opponent to certain parts of the branches or whatever away from certain parts of the branches, that's a big part of the game. But it doesn't work if they don't play along, right? If they just want to close their eyes and mash buttons, it doesn't. You don't have any influence, right? They'll lose, but you realize that there's no amount of control.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let me think about that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So if they ignore everything, if they ignore your influence and they just do random stuff,
Hmm.
you're saying you're not really talking to each other. I'm guessing.
Hmm.
Can't really influence them.
So if your strategy relies on influence, that would be a way to break it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that can be good or bad, but just knowing that, recognizing whether or not you're in a conversation or if it's a one-sided conversation is a key part of playing a fighting game. And it's more than just like that person likes to do it one way and this person likes to do another. It actually happens back and forth switches in battle a lot. So it's subtle. It's harder to recognize because it's it's this really curious thing that happens with humans when you are interacting with something. And basically, if something is aware of you and you're aware of it, there's this like recognition moment and a mirror moment where you're like, does it know me? Is it looking at me? And that happens when interfacing with computers, robot AI, animals, people, whatever. So we're really using a really fundamental and common experience to help us navigate how to play fighting games better. And I think if people don't recognize that, then they are most likely the kind of player that closes their eyes, so to speak, and just does whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
So investigating that conversation aspect has been something that's been on my mind recently, and to support everything that we said, I took every single concept from basically what we were talking about and put it in this section. So footsies as a concept, strategy spread as a concept, which we just went over, and learning as a concept. Footsies being that conversation part, by the way. So like conversations, strategies, and how you learn these things, right? Those are the three major things you need to do to play a fighting game well. And within these are subtopics like when you're having a conversation, do you have reactive counter strategies? How do you set expectations? How do you condition conversation? There's the word. How do you test people? Reads. When you're talking about strategy space, important concepts are branches, risk reward, slight variations, counter strategies, fringe possibilities, mix-ups, And when you're talking about learning, key concepts are adaptation, mindset, complexity, neurology, learning practices. You're like, okay, does that all make sense?
I guess so, yeah.
So what's neat is for each of these topics and subtopics, I pulled quotes from top players in multiple types of games, mostly fighting games, that pretty much explain or describe exactly what's going on. From ESAM to Sonic Fox to Fatality to Mewtwo King to Daigo to Justin Wong to Juicebox to all these other people. MK Leo, of course. MK Leo was really a huge resource of great quotes. But they're all
Where did you get the quotes?
YouTube. Each one of these you can.
Oh, okay. You
Yeah.
looked through it?
Let me see. Each one of these you can click on. Let me see. And I can get you the link to this so that you can explore it on your own. And I have videos of me going over every single quote and explaining it. But is there one in particular you want to listen to now? Like, what topic are you most curious about?
You can pick one.
Okay. One of my favorites is Justin Wong.
Yeah, this is a lot to look through. I don't
Yeah, no
pick
worries.
whichever you think is good.
This is one of my favorites about frame data. So precise knowledge and understanding the actual moves or mechanics in the game is a specific topic, but when it comes to super precision, I like Daigo here. He says, I think you need to know frame data first. Do you understand what I mean by frame? Do you, and then the chat's like, do you memorize all the numbers? And he's like, no, but it's actually pretty simple. So he's saying that even though frame data looks intimidating and it's a bunch of numbers and spreadsheets upon spreadsheets, he's like, you use it in a very simple way, right? Mi plus 2. It's like simple math that you do over and over, and then you can forget the math part. But he says it here, and then other people echo it. Like, let me click this one and see if I can pipe you into it.
Next one is don't be scared when pressured. So obviously this is like a math game, Math Fighter 5, where you have to understand the frame data and everything. So there are times where you're gonna get pressured. There's gonna be an opponent's turn where you're gonna get pressured, and it's just one of those things where you just the legend says just take the throw, because if you take the throw,
Yeah, I understand.
they have to make another read on their part. Right, there's no more throw loops in the game. It's all pseudo throw loops. So looking for those situations really help a lot, right? So a lot of times, I'm gonna take the throw. I don't want to take the frame shot. I don't want to take the shimmy, right? So it's just one of those things where you want to make a calculated guess, because sometimes people are greedy. People are not comfortable at just grabbing you 500 times around, unless you're like me or Punk that abuses that system and kind of like forces you to mentally break down to just next.
And
Yeah, this makes sense. Okay, I want to add on to this if I can.
You mean quotes or talking right now?
To that quote.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think he mentioned, I have to look at it again, but
Yeah, I can help you.
like Justin is saying, just take the throw.
Yeah.
People don't want to get throwed. Yeah, that makes sense. I understand that. But I guess what they don't realize is there's something much worse than being thrown. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Sometimes sometimes you have to be vulnerable to throwing. Yeah, like risk reward.
Yep.
I think there was a match between like Infiltration, Akuma, and who was it? I don't remember. It was like the first Evo Grand Finals of the game. Who is the blonde girl?
Karen? Or are you
Yeah,
talking about
Karen.
Street Fighter 4? Yeah, Karen?
No, Street Fighter 5. It should be Street Fighter 5.
Oh, yeah, okay. Then,
It was
yeah,
like it was
Karen.
Infiltration and Akuma versus Karen and
It was probably Punk.
yeah, that's who it was. Punk. Yeah, like Infiltration was getting thrown a lot, but because he wasn't in the corner, it just didn't mean much. He
Yeah.
kept taking the throws
Interesting.
because he knew that he knew he could outtrade with Akuma when they were mid stage. The
Nice.
throw never meant anything because it sent you so far away. In the corner, it did. So what Infiltration did is that he almost always tried to jump out of the corner, took damage from it. Sometimes you brought him back into the corner, but he never took that much damage.
Yeah, like
Yeah, because
one hits, right?
Getting thrown in the corner was like way worse. So he always wanted to get out. Even if he took damage, it didn't really matter because he never took that much damage.
Yeah.
And once he was out, he still took the throws, but he didn't really care. Like, he got thrown so many times. He got thrown must have been 20 times or something.
Yeah.
But he always outtraded because it really didn't matter to him.
Yep.
All he cared about was not taking Karen's bread and butters and him getting his own so that he could outdamage her. And that even if he gets grabbed, who cares? Like, the throw just wasn't very good for Karen at the time. Didn't do much damage and it sent you really far, so there's no follow-up, so who cares if you get thrown?
The last... Yeah, go ahead.
I think this makes perfect sense what Justin is saying. In some situations, you just need to take the throw most of the time.
Yeah, that kind
it's like the least worst option.
that kind of logic, that kind of clarity you gain from considering multiple possibilities, and then when you look at multiple, you're like, well, these are bad, these are not so bad, and this one's, all right. So it allows you to very calmly make that decision when you otherwise wouldn't be able to calmly make it in a battle. And going into the battle pre-calm, so to speak, does so much for playing a game.
Yeah, it does.
So
It's like having the game figured out.
Yep. I mean, that's what a strategy is.
Yep.
Really study, and if you study, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. You just have to really study, and if you study, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. You just have to really.
I love that quote.
He's right.
Like the game, there's a lot to study, right? And people are looking at these games with a fine-tooth comb, and he's like, there's really no other way around it. You really have to study, and you got to get the numbers. And once you have something solid like frame data, the numbers don't lie. Like that is not, unless they update the game, that stuff will be true no matter what. And you use that rock solid information to base everything else off of.
Makes sense.
So returning back to change windows, returning back to here. So there's a ton of people all saying the same thing. I think when a lot of people say the same thing, it really drives the point home. But in particular for the conversation aspect, being able to, well, when you're not performing as well as you want in a game, chances are improving both components here is going to improve your chances. For the strategy part, knowing which matchup you lost, do you have a plan for that matchup? Did you find a solution for the thing that you lost the most percentage or positioning from? And then you'll go into the next round with a strategy, right? If it was a matter of reads and footsies and having that conversation, there's just multiple ways to improve that. But some may be like, can I find a strategy that allows me not to need the conversation? Can I find something to shut this down or avoid it completely? Can I just run, right? Like there's all kinds of, these two sides talk back and forth, but recognizing both of them and being ready to boost one with the other is what keeps a fighter so flexible and so powerful. And undergirding all that is just understanding how you learn, right? You remember the CPTM system of learning that I created through Enlighten, right? Trying to show people that there's a certain sequence of steps that you need to learn well, and if you don't do them, you're not really producing the stuff that's going to help you.
Richard, I lost connection for a bit.
Okay, no problem.
The past minute.
Just let me know if you need me to repeat
I'm back.
something.
Yeah, the past minute.
Okay, cool. So like, the conversation aspect of fighting games and the strategy aspect are two major parts. They can influence each other. You can solve one problem in one by putting work in the other, and vice versa. So it's important to kind of know that that's what's happening in fighting games, and that you may need a two-pronged approach to solve any current problem that you're having. But undergirding both of those things is how you learn, right? So learning a matchup, learning the frame data, or learning techniques and whatever to engage in a conversation, all the things you do in a game have to be learned, from the controls to the strategies to the metagame and onward. So just being a little bit more aware of what learning is and what it requires. The CPTM, Curiosity, Perception, Thoughts, and Methods learning system was one that I built into Enlighten. And, having these aspects, MKLeo talks about it here, Sonifox talks about it here, Daigo talks about this here, MKLeo talks about this here, and Nothing, it's a Counter-Strike player, talks about this part right here. But they're all speaking the same language, and they're all saying, like, yeah, this is basically how learning works, and you need these steps. And similarly, this is just a bunch of best practices, like, do you take notes? Have you ever talked about your strategies? Have you ever taught someone else to play? Have you ever lapped something in training mode? Best practices like that, and all the quotes from all the top players that support exactly that thing. So, in a nutshell, we went over the core fighting games. We went over kind of how the two major sort of prongs work well with each other, and then we have this system of how to continually practice in a way that boosts both of those things, and how every single top player pretty much is in agreement on these things. With all this knowledge, we should be able to precisely identify what you're missing or what you need or what would give you the most benefit per time playing Smash right now, right? Like I feel like we can put it together, but it's got to be something that's right here.
Something in the chart.
Conceptually, yeah. Like it's like if you're curious about something, or you want to try to consider like how well are my branches? Like, do I have a deep enough strategy, or how good is my ability to make reads and set expectations and condition? Like, it's got to be something here that could use a new, fresh coat of paint, so to speak.
Okay.
So yeah, to know that the answer isn't some mysterious, like you gotta take a spirit walk in a quest to find yourself, or something as grueling as you just literally have to play 10,000 matches against MK Leo to improve. Like, knowing that it's something a lot more.
That would help a lot.
It would. He seems to be a great coach too. And Michi King seems to be a great coach, but that's just my
Michi King has a lot of good coaching results.
Yep.
He coached Zero and MK Leo.
Yeah, MK. Yeah.
And they're both, world champions.
Yep.
GK is probably like the best coach when it comes to results at the moment.
Which is really cool. I would love to know more about his method and stuff. I might just like hire him as a coach just to talk with me.
That's a good idea if you want to learn about it.
I'd be like, remember that game you stiffed me in OC3 when I finally got a chance to play you with my Kirby? No, we'll just leave that stuff in the past.
What do you remember? He might remember.
He might.
Who knows?
But I even brought it up when I saw him at MLG Dallas one time. Like, remember that time when you played me in
Oh,
OC3?
he was pissed that day.
That was before he...
He was banned at that event. You remember?
It was either MLG... It was one of the MLGs, and I think it was before he was pissed. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have talked to him because he was pissed.
Okay, because he was pretty angry. I talked to him as well.
Yep.
And I watched him coach, who was it? Lee Martin, that's who it was.
Ah, yeah, the Lucario player.
He used Wario and Falco at one point, I think. And Meta Knight, of course.
Let me try something real quick. Monitor, game capture. Yeah, but I'm sharing with you on the stream just a screenshot of Enlighten. Let me just game and webcam. Yeah, this is good enough. So boop. And if all this,
Enlighten.
Yeah. If
my name's down there.
Yep, this is your file.
Really?
Yep.
Nice.
My
favorite game.
From 2019, this is your data. But the idea is, if improving isn't something mysterious, it's just something precise, and improvement just requires the right techniques done over time, like mundane, simple things, but you do them consistently over time, then we can look at how you've learned in the past to get a better idea of how you're currently learning. This is why I pull up Enlighten all the time. Your records here, you were developing your Enlightened Eye, and not so much your Enlightened Mind, and not so much your Enlightened Ear. In Mastery, you got 31% through, with the highest being Experience, which means you played the game a lot and you tried a bunch of different modes and you were doing it that way. But your Memorization, Heuristical, Logarithmic, and Cardinal understanding weren't as fleshed out. You spent 10 hours, which is very generous, right? Like, people even spending 10 minutes on my game. It's like, oh, well, I'm thankful for that, but I'm glad you put enough time in to make this thing worth it. And you can see some of your stats here.
Daily scores.
Daily scores. Let's see. Questions answered, notes written. Let's see when you started writing notes. Yeah, you steady climb up. That's good. which tool. So you use the click keeper tool a lot, less so the relevant notes tool. And you use hidden shapes a lot, which is interesting because that's one of the least popular tools. But relevant notes here suffered a lot. So like, what I can say about this data, let's see, you spend a decent amount of time in multiple modes, that's good. So if you look at your chart, you know, you got a burst of activity at the beginning of the game, but then your progress on enlightenment kind of was static from like hour 2 to hour 2 to hour 7. And your mastery level slowly creeped up, had some static moments, more static moments, and pretty much tapered off, right, horizontally.
Yeah.
There's something about the way that you're approaching learning, and something about the way that it mirrors your mastery of it that is worth highlighting here. And I think the best way to just to sum it up is that your strategy tree this was your progress through the single player, and pink is, let me see, unsolved, solved, perfect.
So pink is solved. Okay.
So yeah, you perfected all these puzzles, which means you solved them in the least amount of clicks possible, which is great. But then there was that extra challenge of going in and solving them blind, which, you know, is without being able to see the lights change as you solve it. And you did none of that.
I don't think
And
I remember why I didn't do any of it.
it could be nothing. It could just have been whim. It could just be, you know, just if you had more time, you would have done it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think if in general you find yourself resisting memorizing strategies, then that would be so. So let's say like these pink represent your strategy space, and all the connections between them are the connections you found when playing, right? So you did the work, but if it's not in your head, if you just figured it out once but you didn't quite like memorize it, then it's not going to help you enough on the battlefield. And perhaps your tendency not to memorize and solve these blind kind of reflects a general tendency you have to not kind of do that final step with your strategy space.
Okay.
So like it's great that you love to work things out and plan things out on paper and stuff, but and I know you have a really good memory for all these details, but I'm curious to know if you have like a really clear idea of your own strategic approach in playing Smash Ultimate with the characters that you choose. How would you describe that?
I definitely get stuck like I would in the enlightened puzzles with like different situations. I really don't know what to do.
Because these enlightened puzzles go to layer 15 basically, and there were some players that specifically try to unlock every puzzle and blind them like before doing a lot of other stuff. But you in particular, more so than any other player I've seen, I think, you started investigating the other stuff. So you got into the daily challenges at hour 1. Some people went to hour like 7 or whatever to start doing dailies. So you were all about like the game part, the challenges, the mini skirmishes, whatever, and your results were kind of like up and down, up and down, up and down, but slowly trending upwards. I think that kind of reflects your approach to Smash in a lot of ways, right? If you get too overly focused on playing matches and on certain aspects of the game, though that energy you spend there is not being put towards boosting your strategy spread that you may have in your head, and that's going to make it harder for you to make decisions, and it's going to be harder for you to make the right decisions, and it's going to be harder for you to engage in the footsies or conversational part of the game.
and this is all just conjecture and kind of a wild guess, but it's interesting to look at your history in order to try to help you go in the right direction for your future. And the fact, like, you wrote a good amount of notes too, 101 notes. That's a good amount for 10 hours. However, the relevant note tool, which is the tool that makes the notes pop up as you're solving a puzzle, you almost never use it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm suggesting, like, maybe you do all the work, but there's just like one little step that you're not doing that allows your brain to really lock into it. And if your brain doesn't lock into it, you're not going to lock into it, right?
Okay.
So just think back on a lot of the stuff you've done in Smash. You've done so much research, so many match analysis, you've gone to so many tournaments, and it feels like just hearing all those things and knowing you, because, we've hung out, and I've known you since... Brawl? Like the end of Brawl? Yeah, you were helping me train.
No, the start of it.
You were helping me train with the Ice Climbers matchup when I was Pit. Yeah, so like maybe since 2010, right? That's freaking...
Yeah, 2010 is around there.
12 years, man. I've known you for 12 years, and it's interesting to just think back on it and go, okay, I always knew that you were detail-oriented and that you had these really good methods and ways of thinking about the game, but I'm always like, what is the disconnect? What is the thing that you're not doing that doesn't allow you to capitalize on all that hard work you did? And like, I'm looking at your notes right now in Enlighten, like, look at these are good notes. And you were using the hashtag system and everything, and you took so many, but then you didn't use the relevant note tools to make them to kind of like supercharge your hard work, right? That's the theory.
Yeah.
That's all. So
need to use notes from this. I think, like, actually, there's another problem I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing it all in my head.
Yep.
I'm not writing anything down. I should write it down.
Yes.
It's actually a problem.
Let's-
Because I know, like, a lot of what I figured out kind of just fades away over time.
Yes. Very So, like, I'm glad you said that, because in so many people who played Enlighten, a lot of people were very resistant to taking notes because, going through school, some people really felt like they didn't need them. And for certain things, you certainly don't. But when you're trying to improve at a game where the sky's the limit and you're trying to basically improve / be the best, you got to take every advantage you can. And just like you said, if you don't take notes,
You don't use them
if you don't
either. Take them and use them.
did you have a username in One Smash?
Yeah, it's the same username.
Is it F Hero or is it Agent?
Agent.
Or did you go by something else back then?
It's the same thing.
Okay, let me do this. Agent of, or is it the Agent?
The
Agent.
Yeah, my post is there. My post is there.
Let me get your name right real quick. The Agent of Force.
Go to the general chat in One Smash Dojo. If you can find it.
Oh, one sec. One Smash. Assuming I didn't delete it.
Yeah. Nobody uses it.
So One Smash over there. On the website onesmash.net, did you ever use our note taking system or our match tracking system?
No.
Okay then.
I never used any of it. I completely forgot.
It's all good. We made the tools to see if we can make it, 2 to see if they would work for us, and then 3 to see if they would help and work for anybody else. So let me just show this on the screen. You are my screen. I'll share the screen with you. Okay, so you see the screen. This is my dojo notes
for Kirby Kid, and it's got all the notes that I ever logged into the system. Some of them are automatic notes generated when I'm tracking my matches, and whenever you log in like the matches you played, you can automatically type in some notes based on what you just played, like never do this and never do that or whatever. So really, you can see everything that I ever logged in about matchups and data and stuff, and it's all right here. So if I just type in like Ridley,
Everything related to Ridley. Okay.
you have to be bold with advancements to get the cross up in this stupid big lizard thing. Ridley has a diagonal forward weak spot, but is T-Jolt in special really the best way to get in? I was playing Pikachu. Interesting. Why?
Pikachu is very good.
Yeah. Mario versus Ridley. What's with the weird cape momentum? Pressure Ridley off stage with Flood and Fireballs. Attack when it goes low with up special. Save your jump. Repeated Flood to waste Ridley's jump. Then go get ready to punish up special. Right? Like, definitely remember thinking these things now, but only because I had notes. So yeah, just I just brought that up as a demonstration because it's neat to, when you save notes like online or in a notebook, they're all there for you. You can just travel back in time and see how I thought about the Ridley matchup from the beginning. Ridley's maximum charge fireballs can be parried 4 times. 2 auto on the first 2, space with 2 auto on the next. No one needs to do that though. But yeah, that would be my advice to you. You recognize your strengths, you see the formula, and you can see how it could work for you. But you also need to do the things that put the work you put into this game work for you. You have to take notes somehow. You have to, if you want to learn, you have to engage in the better tips and tricks, like, you know, watching videos of your matches, watching better players play, having a plan when you enter a match, and stuff like that. Like, even getting a coach are important things. And I think you can do it. There's no reason to believe that it won't work, because that's the only way I know that it works. After all this time and all this studying. And when I did my best in Smash, it was because I did the things. And when I didn't do well in Smash, it's because I stopped doing the things. And it's no longer a mystery to me.
Yeah. You were always a very weird player, no matter how I looked at it.
How dare you?
Like, sometimes it felt like you weren't trying, and you were kind of just doing weird stuff. Other times it felt like you were really trying. Like, I noticed that from you. Like, sometimes it felt like you wanted to win. Other times it didn't.
Yeah.
Like in Smash 4, when Smash 4 came out, you were winning. It felt like you wanted to win.
I know with Brawl was sad with just my attitude, Meta Knight, and all kinds of factors.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one match?
You're pretty good at Brawl, though.
You remember that one match I played against Dinty, and you were like helping coach me, right? And like,
Yeah, coaching you as you played.
Yeah.
That was not fair to him.
Well, too bad. But we went into it with the game plan.
Yeah, but I remember it.
And like, Dinty was one of our best players, local players. He played Olimar, and then I played Pit. So I remember going in, and with F-Hero's help, we're like, okay, we got a game plan, and we're gonna do this. And F-Hero's usually like, run away, air camp them, do all the stuff, don't engage, you don't need to. I'm just like, okay, fine. I'm finally gonna do the stuff. And like, freaking took the first game off Dinty, and I saw him do that classic like sit up. I gotta take this seriously, kind of thing, which is really fun. It's really funny to see that.
Yeah, I remember that.
But then I couldn't hold it. I remember.
Infinity was watching.
Yeah, who? Infinity?
Oh, I stopped coaching you actually because I respected Denty.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
So like
reasons.
game 1.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, game 1. I think I saw you. Game 1 started, and you were losing, and I'm like, okay, this is horrible. If I don't do something, Richard's just gonna lose again, get 2-0'd. So I'm like, I have to think of something now. So I figured, well, what if I just tell him what to do while he's playing? Most people don't really like that. Like, people call it backseat gaming. If you watch Twitch, there's like no backseat gaming allowed or whatever, because people get upset or whatever. I'm like, well, there's been a few times where I told Richard what to do, and he's actually done it, and it's worked. I'm like, maybe if I just tell Richard what he should be doing and help him out, help him figure out what he should do against Denny, maybe he'll do it and he can take the first game. So that was my reasoning, and I started doing it, and you started doing everything I told you to, and it actually worked. And Denti, I guess Denti maybe he played into it. He played into it because he tried to like counter it maybe, but I guess he didn't know what to do either. Like there were times when you were like, what was it? It was he was trying to whistle your up air, and I'm like, just wait and then up air. But then Denti started to like air dodge instead of whistle, which still lost to like waiting and up airing. So I'm like, I'm wondering if Denti kind of he wasn't sure what he was supposed to do in these situations or whatever.
I wonder what tournament that
And
was.
he made it way worse for him. It was at Evo Games.
Evo Games? Wait,
Yeah, it was an Evo Games tournament,
what?
I think.
Revolution 12.
Maybe. Oh, it's Smash 4.
QuakeCon, Phase 5, MLG Dallas, and it wasn't the MLG, All's Brawl 2
No,
tournament,
well after.
Dallas Blockout or Blockbust Brawl.
Is this every tournament you've been to?
I tried to log every tournament that I've ever been to.
It's tough.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. And like, Denti got upset. He called the TO telling him that I can't coach you or whatever. And I'm like, alright, whatever, that's fine. I'll let Richard play game 2 out by himself. And then, yeah, I think where did he go? I think he went, I don't remember what stage he went to.
See, you have a good memory, right? You gotta make sure that you do the things to put it to work for you.
Game 1 was on Battlefield. It was game 2 on...
Smashville.
It must have been a big stage, like Delfino or something. Some stage that he likes, I can't remember. Game 3 was on Smashville.
It's funny.
I think game 2 was Delfino.
We played
Some
played on
stage that he
Delfino.
likes.
We actually played on Delfino. Man, fun times.
Infinity was surprised that you took a game off of him.
It's funny. It's funny when you just consider what that scenario was, right? Like a single person has certain mental and execution limitations, but if you expand your mind, right, whether you use note taking or whatever, or a coach, then you have the ability to think beyond your limitations. And sometimes it just takes the smallest bit of awareness, the smallest strategy, the smallest reminder that keeps you in the game, right? And like, it's amazing how big of a difference that does. It wasn't just like 10% difference. It wasn't I won neutral once difference. It was I took a game difference, right? And to realize that, it, just to kind of spin it up in the right context, I had all that potential to win in me, but it just wasn't configured smoothly enough to where I could access it like in the match. I think is exactly your current problem.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's part of it.
Because, man, if you remember random matches that we've had back in 2010, and you can remember...
That was definitely like a special match, though. Like, I remember the ones that are like outliers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to remember the ones like that. It's true. QuakeCon!
A lot of tournaments. QuakeCon 2010. I think I went to that one. Let me see. Yeah, Zach won it. Yeah, I did go to it.
Lee Martin.
ALSM at the bottom. Aerolink.
Lee Martin with that Lucario. Told you.
He used Meta Knight too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He used Lucario at first.
Brawl singles.
Phase 5.
Phase 5.
Oh, I placed slightly higher that tournament. I think we may have played Phase 5. I remember.
F-Hero 917. Nice. There you are. The history is here.
I lost to Chucky's Game & Watch, I think.
Oh.
Who else?
Chucky, Game & Watch 13.
Tons of good players, man. Dojo, Bad News Bears. This was back. This must have been at the apartment venue.
Maybe.
Is it at the apartment venue? It was like this was somewhere in an apartment.
Yeah. The dojo. Yeah, so that concludes this fun little experiment. Any final words? Any final questions? Should I boot up Smash?
Mhm. Not really. Do you still play Smash?
No.
Stop.
I do research. I think about Smash, right? But that's about as far as it goes. I don't even. I mean, I played a little bit this morning in anticipation of this conversation, and I was just playing in training mode with Mario. But yeah, I don't play. No.
What do you play?
I don't. I'm playing the new Kirby. I don't have a ton of time. I definitely don't have time to play something competitive. The Footsies experiment was neat because it was a competitive game with like a really small scope, so I could like do it. But I'm way too busy for this.
What do you do?
I changed the world.